Greetings and welcome to Second Breakfast, the second most important meal of the day. I'm Sean.
And I'm Jason. Sean, what's for second breakfast today?
Today for Second Breakfast, we're having us nailing the hell out of that intro after not having done it for
Since
3
last
months.
year.
Yeah, since last year.
Kill
It's
me.
been so long. I don't want to do that because then who else would I have this podcast to do with?
That's true.
Egg?
Absolutely
Swirls?
not. Absolutely not.
Fabio? As if, dude.
True. I'm excited to be back. I've been watching so much Rings of Power recently.
Good. I need you to hard carry this episode like you did every other one.
Sadly, I don't have notes, but
Neither
I'll
do
my
I.
best.
I think this is the first time I've recorded this podcast and not had notes.
Mm.
This time for Second Breakfast, what we were going to talk about, what this episode was going to be titled, was the Sauron episode. Off the fly, I'm changing that a little bit.
Okay.
We're just going to talk about the season overall, having rewatched it a couple months later, because
How did it
I don't
hold
know.
up?
Yeah, I don't know if there's enough Sauron stuff to talk about for a full episode, to be completely honest
Not
with you.
yet.
Not quite yet. After rewatching it, I was kind of like, we should just talk about the whole season.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're going to talk about. So Jason and I recently just rewatched the entire series in one sitting on Twitch.
It was awesome.
So let's start with that. Jason, how was the experience of marathoning 8 to 9 hours of television?
Dude, it was awesome. I liked it. It was like akin to, watching one of the trilogies or whatever, just back to back to back. Watching on stream was really cool too.
Yeah, we consistently had people there watching with us, which I kind of didn't think we were going to.
Yeah, me neither, honestly. I just wanted to do it. I was like, oh yeah, and then people will watch. I was just like, I kind of just want to watch this whole series start to finish.
I really thought it was just going to be us watching the show for 9 hours.
Yeah.
I was like, that'll be fun. We'll just watch the show.
Right.
But we had on and off. I think somebody was there the whole time. I think
Pretty
Cass
much.
was there the whole time.
Yeah. Yeah, shout out to Castigula, the homie.
Shout outs, the homie. Yeah, I really enjoyed watching the whole thing back to back. I think it did open me up to some issues pacing wise that I'll talk about. But for the most part, I think my big takeaway from watching it all in one sitting was I was surprised at how much stuff happens in the show. Because I constantly was telling Jason, I thought this happened episode 4 or 5, and it's episode 2 and it's happening.
Yeah. Well, I was talking with my mom, and I watched the first 3 episodes with her.
Uh-huh.
And then, and my little sister watched it with us as well. And then we stopped for there, and then my mom ended up watching 4 through 6 with my aunt.
Okay.
And when she was talking about it, I started to talk about, I wanted to talk about the volcano, but I just wasn't sure, just because I'm
Yeah.
oh shit, what was the last thing that happened?
Yeah.
I don't want to spoil anything. But yeah, she only has 2 more episodes, which we're gonna watch. I think next Thursday or something.
Okay.
But I'm really excited to see her reaction, because she has been bouncing back and forth a ton as to who she thinks Sauron is. Because we rewatched 4, 5, and 6 together, because we didn't watch those together yet, and she also wanted to just rewatch it because she likes Lord of the Rings, but she's not a huge Tolkien nerd, and also a lot happens in the show. It bounces from segment to segment, a lot. It jumps around.
Yeah.
I literally talked to my chiropractor this morning because he had asked me, because I was wearing, I'm actually wearing it right now, but I was wearing this hoodie that's the "You Are All Welcome Here" with the different colored ears, right? And he was asking about it, and I was like, "Oh, do you know the show Rings of Power?" And he's like, "Oh yeah, I watched it." And I was like, "Yeah, this is what it's from and stuff." And he was like, "Yeah, I watched the first season, and I mean, man, I like Lord of the Rings, but it was just jumping around so much. It was like hard for me to follow. Like I gotta watch it again just to feel like I understand exactly what happened. So I feel like for people who aren't huge nerds like us, I wonder if that's like the common consensus, that it's just there's so much going on at all times.
Yeah, I mean, I think I said it a bunch of times while we were doing the actual like main show, but it really feels like an epic fantasy book in that doesn't really hold your hand, and it just kind of jumps between all the different points of view. There's a lot of different plot lines, and they're all happening concurrently, and they attempt to catch you up on every plot line in every episode.
Yeah, for the most
part. A
A
lot of shows wouldn't do that. They'd be like, "This is the Harfoot episode,"
Yeah.
But this show, Rings of Power, for the most part, even if it's a small scene, it still jumps there and shows you like, hey, they're still doing stuff.
Yeah. There's like an episode or two where like you don't see like the Harfoots or you don't see the dwarves, but that's like pretty much it. And then like the first 2 episodes, don't really have Numenor either.
Yeah. They kind of slowly introduce you to everything that's happening.
Yeah.
But then once it's moving, it's moving.
Like having watched it again, I think you'll probably echo this as well. There's a bit of a lull at episode 5 and 6, or
4. I'd say 4 and
5. I meant 4 and 5. Yeah. 4 and 5. There's a bit of a lull. Those are probably the weakest episodes, honestly.
And that was the pacing stuff I was talking about.
Yeah.
There was a part in the middle there, 4 and 5, I think, where it dragged. And
I
those were the parts where I was
the Numenor stuff.
I think it's mainly the Numenor. I think it's the Numenor, and it's also when we started to get introduced to the elf plot line that doesn't matter.
Yeah.
With the corruption and stuff.
Yeah.
It's both of those things together, I think, really dragged me down on this rewatch. Those were when I was like leaned all the way down in my chair.
Yeah.
Like where my butt should have been was where my back was. You know what I'm saying? Like, like I had pulled the mic down as close to my face as I could, and I was just like, I was relaxing for 4 and 5. And then I think 6 brings it back because that's the big action episode.
Yeah.
And you sit back up, and then 7 and 8 are like 6, 7, and 8. I think are the highlight of the show.
They're solid as hell.
Massive action sequence, and then 7 has like this really incredible world design that you get to spend a lot of time in. And then 8, of course, all the Sauron stuff. And then I think 1, 2, and 3 like introduce the world really well. Like I think it's really what it is. 1 introduces you to parts of the world.
Well, then episode 4 is the Adar episode, which I really like too.
But then like episodes 2 and 3 introduce you to different parts of the world in the dwarf storyline and then the Numenor storyline. And then 4 and 5 are the ones where like you've been introduced to everything, but massive advancements aren't really happening.
Not really.
It's just kind of moving pieces around on the board to get to the massive advancements of 6, 7, and 8. So I definitely think those are the ones where, in retrospect, I felt a little bit of a pacing like, okay, but like that's the character development episodes too, right?
For sure. Like that's where you get the scene where Theo is, going back into town, and then he gets cut up, and then he hides in the well, and then there's that scene after when he's going away.
There's always moments
running away from that. There's definitely good moments. Like there's the stuff between Elrond and Durin. I want to say talking about their fathers, and then Durin. I want to say with 5. His father.
Is 5 the one with Wandering Day, the song?
Yeah.
That montage is incredible. These moments,
awesome.
It's just kind of overall.
The
that's
meat
when
of
I was,
it is kind of
yeah. I was kind of relaxed.
Although, like, I do like that we saw Galadriel do the sword fight and stuff.
Yes.
My main problem, I guess, is with episode 4. Like, if episode 4 was a bit different, I think.
Do you mean 5?
Well, no, because episode 4 is the one where they're almost going to send her away on the boat.
Oh, okay. I thought I had more of a problem with the episode where they do it all again.
See, like, but I think 5 does it better. Like, I think I like 5 better.
If
4 was a little bit different, like, let's say that boat scene was, like, I don't know, maybe 5 minutes earlier, and then they had a different ending instead, I might feel different about it. But I don't know, because I think overall I like 5 better because the intro, the Wandering Day intro, it has the mind collapsing, Elrond investigating. Then there's like the scenes between them and their bonding. Really good parts with Disa in it. I think 5 also has where where the stranger slams his hand and then does the ice.
Yeah.
Which is really cool as well.
And I enjoyed the Numenor plotline in 5 more than I had the first time, because there were parts of it that I liked. I liked Galadriel kind of walking around and doing, like you said, that sword fight sequence. I really just I think overall my massive problems with the Numenor stuff lie in Isildur and Farazan's son. Both of those things, like, I like the stuff with Hallbrand.
Any Aarian scene, sadly.
Yeah, which I kind of lump her in with, like, those 3 characters: Isildur, Farazan's kid, and
Kevin.
Aarian. Yeah, Kevin or whatever his fucking name is. Julius Caesar, I'm gonna call him.
Julius.
Julius. Because, like, we talked about this during the show the first time. We were like, what's the problem with Aarian, right? Am I supposed to, like, is it direction? Am I supposed to be seeing something? Like, I feel like I just look at her and I never know what she's thinking. And I felt the same way this time around, where I just was looking at her. I'm like, what am I supposed to be getting out of this close-up of you right now? Because I'm getting nothing out of it. It's just a face right now.
Sadly. Well, and, like, the main thing with her is I thought that she was going to be a vehicle for Isildur to be able to infiltrate the capital a bit later on. But, like, to me, it more seems like she's going to be an opposing force to her family and the war. And it's like, you know, like, part of me was thinking partway through, because, you know, you see there's the scene where she's drawing the king in his deathbed. Yes. And then he wakes up and shows her the Palantir and stuff.
Which
just
we
feels
don't
like such
get...
a waste of a scene, because it's just like...
There's no resolution to it either.
Yeah.
Isn't that her last scene in the show?
That's our last scene in the show, and then the king dies, but we don't see her.
Yeah. Because they just show up and all the sails or all the flags are black. Yeah.
Well, but before that scene, I'm thinking, oh, maybe it's that. Like, I'm thinking, okay, Isildur, he's gonna be in the Southlands / Mordor / the area around Mordor, and helping the Southlanders. And he's going to, you know, maybe bond with somebody, and then they're probably gonna die. And so then that's what's going to make it so he wants to make sure he comes back and fights evil. Like, he is going to see some shit to make it so that his character actually has, like, a large amount of, like, character progression in a short amount of time, I think. Like, I think he's going to be in the thick of it. And then, so he's going to be for the war, because he's going to be... Not for the war in order to make Numenor stronger, but for the war in order to stop evil, right? And then I'm thinking, okay, well, until he finds out that his son's alive, I think Elendil's going to be against the war, but he's going to be supporting Muriel, so he's going to feel a little torn, right? Because she's like, they don't know what they started. We're coming back, right? And so I'm thinking he's going to be against the war, but not because he's against the elves, just because he doesn't want to see anyone else die, right?
That's definitely the vibe that
and
I
then
got,
she's going to be against the war because fuck the elves, and I don't want to see anyone else die. So, like, I'm just like, what the hell's going on? I'm sure they're going to add in a Narian to make it, like, even more weird. I don't know, bro. Like,
and still all this stuff with the other side of the island and like the thing calling to Isildur. Like I don't. I want to say that I'm excited to find out or to see her reaction to, Elendil coming back without Isildur. But I don't. Is it gonna be another blank face where I don't really know what to read out of her? I don't know.
I feel like it has to be the direction with her. I don't know. I don't know at this point because it's.
I haven't seen it. I haven't seen her in anything else.
It seems like Elendil is like such a goated actor, right?
Mm-hmm.
So like, I don't know. I really don't know why she is how she is.
She's in some episodes where there are great performances being put on screen, so I'm less inclined to say that it is direction.
Yeah.
But I mean maybe
they just don't know what to do with her character.
Yeah. It's possible that it's her character specific. That
it's like
I don't know.
Direction.
I haven't seen her in anything else.
I don't know.
So I can't compare her performance in this to
I have no idea.
Anything, So I don't want to talk about Sauron just yet. I want to you know what I want to hit on really quickly was since we recorded last, we found out the directing team for
season 2,
the second season, which was
good news.
Yeah. It's being headed up by Charlotte Brandstrom, who directed episodes 6 and 7, which I think are the 2 best episodes,
honestly,
of the show, pretty easily. Also in the directing team is, sorry, I'm pulling up the article now. I have to.
Those episodes by far are the best. As far like you can see that she can clearly do action very well, and she can also do not a lot of action very well, like good character moments. Like you get literally the only large fight in the show, really, where there's actual like horses and stuff like that. There's a bit of scrapping in the episode prior or whatever, but like you don't see anything like that in any other episode. And then the next episode, you get all of the Galadriel character building, all the Theo character building. You get Elendil, the most grief-stricken actor I ever seen in my life.
Yeah.
Like, just so many really, really great character moments. So it really makes me feel really good about season 2.
Yeah. So Charlotte Brandstrom will be directing, it sounds like 4 episodes, I believe is what I read. And then she is being joined by Sana Hamri, who I don't know anything about this person. I don't even think.
How do you spell it?
Here, I can just link it into the chat. I'm trying to find their IMDb page currently.
Because based on their picture, they might be the person who was doing a bunch of the special feature stuff.
Oh, interesting. Okay. As far as I can see, okay, so she directed an episode of The Wheel of Time. Another excuse for me to get you to watch Wheel of Time. So, Jason, you need to see how this director does. Other than that, did some Empire, did some Shameless, directed an episode of Glee. Like, not a ton of huge hits, I'm not gonna lie to you. But on the producer side, again, produced like all of Empire, which I hear Empire is a good show, so you know what? Maybe. But Louise Harper directed 2 episodes of Sandman, which was like critically acclaimed. She also did 2 episodes of The Witcher, which is less critically acclaimed. But maybe she did the 2 good episodes. I don't know. I haven't watched The Witcher. I watched the first season and that was it. And let me see if she did any of the first season. I don't think so. I'm scrolling. Actually, Charlotte Brandstrom directed episodes of the first season. of The Witcher, which that's funny. She did. Louise Hopper did 2 seasons of, or Hooper, sorry, not Hopper. Hooper did 2 episodes of season 2, which I've not seen, so I can't tell you how I felt about those. But
well, I don't know. I'm excited because I do really like episode 6 and 7.
yes, me too.
It's
and
one
if
of
she's
the
doing
few
most
things
of the season
that are, feeling good about season 2. Besides the fact that it's like there's going to be a lot of Mordor stuff or whatever, and they said Halbrand's going to be, the main character of season 2.
In the way that more
That Galadriel is, yeah.
Galadriel was. I was so deep into Wheel of Time trying to figure out what the fuck this was that I almost said a character from Wheel of Time's name. She's directing the first episode of the second season of Wheel of Time. Is what that is. I was like, what the fuck is IMDb telling me?
You'll see. You'll have to see.
I will see whenever they decide to release that show. I've been waiting for a while. Yes, so I'm excited for that. Do you have anything you want to talk about before we talk about Sauron?
Yeah, I want to talk about Adar.
Adar. Oh, I'm gonna miss him.
Having watched the whole show in one sitting, and then also watching half of the show in another sitting.
And we watched it twice when it aired because we were watching it 2 to 3 times a week.
There's one thing that I hope I'm a little worried about, but it's just more. It's more of a guess, right? So the whole part where he goes, he's talking to Arondir, and it's like the very first scene we really see him in, and they're having the one-on-one. And he's talking about how, there's been so many lies told that in order to fix them all, you'd have to unmake the whole world. And then he goes, that you'd have to be a god in order to do that. But I'm not. At least not yet. Right? To me, that's like, okay, obviously he did the Mount Doom thing, right?
But that's not.
Does he think that makes him a god?
God?
I don't know.
You could.
He did unmake basically that whole area, right?
By and causing a massive volcano to explode is like an act of God. If that was like a disaster that happened in the real world, it would be like an act of God, like causing this massive destruction, So
right. Well, and so to me, I'm a little worried that means he's gonna have more that he's gonna be doing. Basically what I'm saying is I don't know if they're trying to say that Adar is going to be doing like magic or something, or like trying to do something in order to gain more power, but not power as in like military power. Like I'm saying, like wizard power or something. You know.
Yeah.
So I don't know. We'll see. I guess make him stronger to make him a more formidable foe to Sauron. Because I would assume that he kind of just backstabs Sauron instead of fighting him.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't think that he, did a 1v1 on Rust. You know what I'm saying? I think he came up behind him and slit his throat while he was, in the middle of some powerful spell that needed his attention or something.
Right, right. Yeah, so I don't know. We'll see if I feel like Adar definitely has more to do other than just I'm gonna build up this area.
Which worries me because I don't know about the new actor.
Yeah, we'll see. Yeah, I guess I
haven't
don't know.
seen him in anything.
I don't know that we've talked about it on the pod. Yeah, so
no, that happened afterwards.
Adar's actor was recast. They didn't state why. Maybe it's cause of location change. Who knows? Maybe I don't know. I don't know what else it really could be because I mean his performance was great. We'll see. And I thought the writing for Adar was tremendous. It was great.
Yeah, I don't think there's any change in the writing team, which is inspiring. And we were talking about the pacing thing, and since this is the show as we finished, it's been said that that they're aware of some pacing issues, and that they're trying to rectify them with season 2. So I hope that they don't go too overboard, because I think our pacing issues are different from the haters.
More fights.
Yeah. There were some people that were like, this was dreadfully boring the whole time, which I disagree with. So I hope the pacing issues is like them shoring up that mid-season and not changing everything, So I looked at the original article, the Deadline article that announced that there was a change in the casting, and it says that the recasting decision was made months ago, and that was why Joseph Male did not participate in any of the worldwide promotional events for the show.
Oh, okay. So maybe the actor himself was like, I don't want to do this, or
maybe or I mean, they made the decision to switch shooting locations pretty early.
Yeah.
Before the show even started premiering. So it's possible that it was I don't want to shoot in this other place, but I don't know. Who knows? I tend to believe that's not the case, because he was on Game of Thrones and they're shooting where Game of Thrones shot. So like the Game of Thrones shot in the UK a lot. I mean, shooting in the UK it's not going to give you New Zealand.
For sure.
But there's a lot of variety there. Game of Thrones had some
to me, it's like
interesting looking places.
New Zealand workers are crazy, bruh. Like, when it comes to their lighting, everything there, pretty much, like.
It's sad, but I will refrain too much judgment until we see season 2 in 2 years.
We'll have to see.
I'm trying to think if there's anything else I want to hit on before we talk about Sauron.
My mom, it's so funny, they in that middle part, they're like, yo, Halbrand's being sus. Like, they do a bunch of Halbrand sus stuff. But then they bounce it off of the stranger being sus, bruh.
Yeah.
Over and over. And my mom, like, we're just watching it in the living room, so she's just talk, and we had both seen it, so she's just talking during it, and she's like, oh yeah? Give him a means to master it? Like, saying stuff like that.
Yeah.
But then there's, like, the part where the cultists see the ash circle from where the meteor fell, and it shows that it, like, come to life with fire, like a flashback type thing. And she's like, but that looks like the Eye of Sauron. She like back and forth. It's too great. So I'm glad that she's like, there's no way it's Adar, and then she I think she's more leaning towards Halbrand. So my mom sussing it out.
And the Halbrand stuff was, it's pretty heavily foreshadowed. You can see as you're watching the show, but I definitely feel like I don't think they wanted you to solve the mystery. Some shows it's like, here's the moments where we want you to be figuring things out. This show definitely felt like on a rewatch, they were just throwing as many red herrings into different places that they could so that you couldn't figure it out.
So you could feel strongly about any of them,
Any of them, yes. Like, there was no part while we rewatching the show where I was like, oh man. There were scenes that played differently knowing that Halbrand was Sauron, but there were no scenes where I was like, and this is his secret game that he's playing in the background. And I think part of that is that I'm like, this isn't something that we've gotten confirmed yet because we haven't seen his point of view really yet, but I don't think he was playing a secret game.
I don't think so.
I think it's going to end up being that legitimately he was done and he was out, and then he got dragged back into it.
At least like for that period of time, right?
Yeah,
Because obviously he's like immortal as far as age.
Yeah.
Either A, somebody was going to catch on that, hey, Halbrand, why the fuck are you not aging? Or two, like he was just gonna get sick of being just like a blacksmith, right? Because like deep lore point is that Sauron used to be an apprentice under Aule, who is like
Which
the
is that
master
line.
craftsman, right?
And that's that line in the finale where he's talking to Celebrimbor and he's like, "My master used to speak of you."
Right.
Or speak of your work.
Right,
which is a funny line.
It's a truth. That's why he's able to tell it. So
yeah,
it's not a lie.
Yeah.
But to me, it reads like, I've been defeated. I don't have my evil master. He does like I don't need to be evil, but at the same time, I can't go back to Valinor because that's just too shameful. Like I don't want to be shamed. So I just want to go back to blacksmithing. Like I'm sure he was trying to do, because obviously he doesn't immediately give up, right? Like he clearly is trying to do some type of dark magic, and he's sacrificing orc lives a ton.
It sounds like when Adar betrayed him
is because he killed too many of his orcs.
Yeah, and it sounds like that's when he kind of decided, you know what? Maybe it's time to call it quits.
I failed trying to make what I was trying to make, so I'll just go back to being a blacksmith and lose myself in blacksmithing. And I think eventually he would have, like, if he didn't end up going with Galadriel or whatever, I think he just would have ended up trying to take over Numenor anyways.
Yeah, I don't think he had planned for it. My reading is his plan was, I'm going to fade into obscurity, however many lifetimes it takes or whatever. Like, I'm just going to be a random dude that's hanging out. But I think that what we see with the show is that as soon as he is given that chance to rule, he will always take it.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think he goes back to the Southlands with it in mind that I am going to rule over these people. I think you can see in his face when they're, "All hail King of the Southlands," "All hail King of the Southlands" after the battle. I think you can see the moment of him being like, "I like this, and I want more of this."
Mm-hmm.
So I think it was sort of the thing where, like, and I guess we'll see in season 2, where I think he was trying to fade into obscurity a bit, but he would always end up in this position where he's gonna come into some sort of power and it's not going to be enough for him and he's going to keep wanting more and more. And I think you kind of need to play it that way, because otherwise it makes Galadriel like kind of the reason everything goes bad. I think you need to emphasize, like, maybe that's a plot line for Galadriel in the future, is that she feels like she fucked everything up by bringing him back, and somebody will be like, "Look, this was going to happen." Like, whether it was power that he gained in Numenor or it was power that he gained in some random village in the east, or if it's the Southlands, he will always come into power and he will always want more. I think that's something that they need to touch on in the second season, because otherwise it kind of feels bad, man, for Galadriel.
Yeah, Galadriel haters are definitely like, "This is the worst Galadriel ever written. Tolkien's rolling in his grave. Galadriel's the reason why Sauron's alive." Yeah, right. And it's just like, okay, no, there's like more nuance to it,
Yeah, it would have. It happened to play out this way, but I think it would have happened regardless.
Yeah.
Whether if she had left Numenor and he stayed as he'd wanted, I think he would have been ruling Numenor in a couple years.
Right.
And I don't think he would have gone into that with that intention, but I think it would have happened.
Exactly. Like, he has the power to do that mind stuff to Galadriel.
Yeah.
What would he do with all these like men who are like power hungry, and he can easily find out what it is that makes them tick. He was already in Farazan's ear while he's in prison, bro. Like,
and already the head of, or not the head, but like one of the Smiths Guild was like, "This is the best steel I've ever seen forged," or whatever.
Right.
Like, so even if it's just he's heading up one of the guilds like within a couple months because he's so good, and then he's in the politics of it all. Like, I think regardless, he would have ended up
like poisoning people or like mind controlling them to kill themselves or something like that, or in a similar way to where Galadriel like drowns in a foot of water.
Yeah.
Like, come on, bro.
And I don't think it would have started like that, but I think it would have ended up like that regardless.
For sure. For sure. Well, because he has an unlimited amount of time. You know?
Yeah.
He could have been there hundreds of years, you know?
And I think what they're going to nail home again is that once he has that power, he wants more of it. And he tells himself that he's okay being nobody. And he's going to try to be a nobody. But as soon as he ends up oopsieing or whatever into a situation where people revere him, whether it's by going to the aid of the Southlands or he's just a really good smith and everybody knows him, I think immediately he starts to be like, I want more people to revere me. Well, that's just his nature.
He's already in the ear of Farazan.
Yeah.
He already has respect of a lot of men in Numenor. And he's also, like, they think he's a man, right?
Mm-hmm.
So he doesn't have that barrier of, like, oh, he's an elf. And then he's already in Celebrimbor's ear, and probably other smiths that work for Celebrimbor as well, you know?
I think by the time we get to Celebrimbor, he had his plan. I think his turning point is after the battle in episode 6. I think his turning point is when they all bow down to him. I think that they're going to. I think it's, and I guess we'll see. Like, I don't think it's like a complete
turn, but it's definitely like, yo, I'm like he's an alcoholic who just had like some spiked punch that he didn't know was spiked.
Yes,
but he's feeling his demons come back, you know.
And even a little part of him, you can tell, always wants to go back to that greatness and being revered, because what is the lie that he tells Galadriel while he's trying to be a nobody and trying to escape from fate? He is telling her, yeah, I'm the heir to the Southlands. He's telling her, I'm this great hero. You should revere me. You should put importance onto me because I am the one that can unite them. But I don't want to be. You know, he always needs to be somebody.
I mean, he does say that he found it on a dead man first.
But like
in a way that it's like,
you don't need to tell her anything.
Right.
You don't even need to do that whole bit. Right? And I don't think I'm not trying to say like consciously he's plotting this whole time. I think it's part of, like, I think the great thing that they're doing is they're making Sauron a person and not just a force. Whereas in the movies, I can't speak for the books, but in the movies, you don't really see him as a person. You feel him as a force more than anything. And in this, like, even if it's his subconscious that is like pushing him to make himself more important because he can't stand to not be important.
Right.
Like,
no, I get what you're saying for sure.
You know, I think that's a great layer to the character. And I think that's a layer to the character that a lot of detractors would say is inconsistent. Like, oh, if he doesn't want to be anybody, why is he making himself somebody?
Right, like, as if he, as if it's unseeable that, like, oh, you know, if you are an immensely prideful like, imagine how evil, like, Sauron is in the First Age when he is right under Morgoth, right? Regardless of if Morgoth is, like, hitting him with, like, some dark magic that's corrupting him, right? He is, like, kind of his own person, like, just doing bad stuff on his own. Like, in the story of Beren and Luthien, he's, like, shape-shifting into, like, giant wolves and bats, and is, like, he has his own castle, like, where he's
got a flair for the dramatic.
yeah, and like, he transforms into, like, a vampire, and, like, he just has people there and is, like, torturing people there and capturing people and just getting as much power as he can while he's there. Like, Morgoth's not there. Morgoth's pretty far away, actually. Like, he's just evil himself. And then to go to, like, being, like, giving up all of it, even if you give up all of it, bro, like, you're still an addict, you know, like, for the power, and like, that pride is still gonna be, like, a core character trait.
I think of is a weird analogy, but like Dungeons and Dragons players. I'm gonna play a low-key character this time. I have a cool sword though. And like, this one cool thing happens while you're playing. and then it builds up and it builds up and it builds up. And before you know it, just like always, you're like, I am the coolest motherfucker in the world, and I'm
the main character.
Exactly. And that's kind of how I feel as Sauron's like, I'm nobody. But there's
you're telling me
maybe I'm somebody?
You're telling me Sauron doesn't have main character syndrome, bro?
Exactly.
He definitely does.
And he's been called out on it in the past, so he's trying to like not do it anymore, but he can't help but work it in, and it just like avalanches. Like,
right. Well,
it
think
just
about,
piles
like,
on top of each other.
Think about like Bilbo in The Lord of the Rings, right? He has the One Ring for like 100 years or whatever, right? Like 80 years, something like that. And then he's without it for quite a while. In the books, it's quite a while. It's like over a year, right? Before Frodo even leaves the Shire. And then the second that Frodo is there, and he's like, yo, let me see the ring, bruh. Where it at? Like...
Yeah.
And Bilbo isn't even like he's a very... To start, he's a very just modest guy, Like, he just likes his daily life. And even while literally having the One Ring, he's still like that, right?
Yeah.
Like, he's not all of a sudden, like, killing everybody and... Like, it's clear that it's like the One Ring like enhances dark traits or whatever, right? And like you can infer that Smeagol was like a pretty sketchy guy before he even got the ring.
He was at least greedy to start.
Yeah, he's a greedy guy. So then he kills his best friend, right?
Yeah.
But like,
Jason, no, don't, Jason, you can have the ring. What are you doing? What are you doing?
But yeah, like that. It goes to say that there's no way that Sauron, even if it's like hundreds of years, like let's say, because we don't know what the exact timeline is or whatever, right? But let's say like it's been even like 100 years, because Galadriel's been looking for him for hundreds of years. Yeah. You could say even 100 years ago, like Adar's been in charge for 100 years or something, right? And Sauron either tried to get it back and couldn't, or maybe he's been living among some of the Southland humans for a while or something. Yeah, when he gets a whiff of that good, he wants it back, bro. He wants it back.
Okay, so, you saying that, here's my pitch. This is an episode I want. That they wouldn't do because it's too out there. But I want a whole episode next season that is just, like, make it episode 1. It's just different lives that Sauron has lived in the hundreds of years since whatever. Like, like, it starts off with him, like, after the war, and, like, he's still trying to do shit, and he's practicing things, and then, like, fucking, Adar does his thing, and he goes off on his own. And you could do a really cool character study where Adar where Sauron just goes out and like maybe lives multiple lives as different people out in the world, trying to chasing normalcy, but every time something goes wrong and it's like his fault. And you could and then the last time something goes wrong and then he's out on the ocean. And then it brings us to where we started. We see like at the end of the episode, the last little story that we get told of Sauron is what happened right before he went out onto the ocean. But I really love this idea of
that
this,
would be cool.
I always love in stories when you have somebody that's immortal or at least very long lived, and then you do a section of the story where you just see like 4 or 5 lifetimes that they've lived. Right? I think I'm a sucker for that in fantasy.
It's like if Kratos, like, imagine if him and his kid and Kratos, like, this is like his 5th time trying to be normal or something. Yeah. Like, this is his 5th kid with a different wife, with like a different like, and each time it's just ending in horror and it being terrible. It's like the thing where, oh, you're immortal, but there's a snail constantly following you that'll kill you. But for them, it's just like tragedy and like you are the bad guy. Yeah. Like that's
I think it'd be a great episode.
I'd
very much enjoy seeing that. And it would be a cool way to maybe work in some like stupid lore characters that people really want to see. You know? Like, little, like, yeah, we're not going to show a ton of this person, but maybe they ran into Sauron and didn't know it was Sauron at one point, and, like, here's that story. You know? Like, just so that, like, this character that you want to see that's not going to be in there, okay.
I don't know who they could really do, because there's honestly not a lot, like...
Okay.
There's not a lot that goes on in this age, besides the main things. Like, there's not, like, cool side things that happen, really.
But yeah, I mean, I'm just really excited for the next season. I don't... I think the thesis of all of this is that Charlie Vickers is awesome.
Charlie Vickers is amazing, dude.
Does a great job.
It's perfectly cast. One scene that hit really different. Well, when we watched it during the marathon, Swirls absolutely fucked this scene.
Yeah,
and I was like 1% of me was salty, right?
Yeah,
but it was a little. There's still a little bit of salt, right?
Yeah.
Because I'm like trying to think of, okay, like how does this scene, like I'm trying to go in depth in this scene because it's an intense scene. Even though it's just a one-on-one scene, it's intense. And
I mean, those can be the most intense one-on-one between characters that, especially when you know that they're very complex and very different.
Yeah. Well, and, you know, you, like, knowing that it's Sauron, there's so many things that Galadriel says that you know that Sauron can, you know, identify with, right? But also that he can remember to then, you know, like the whole find out what their fear is and give them a way to master it or whatever, right? So, like, you know, he hears, oh, my best friend and my leader, they both cast me aside because they didn't, well, first she says my own crew mutinied against me, and then they wouldn't give me a new army, and then they also tried to send me back to Valinor because they couldn't differentiate me between me and the evil I was trying to fight. And, like, you know that, like, him as being, like, an outcast Maiar, he can vibe with that, you know? Like, he's done bad things. And she says, you know, I can't stop fighting. Like, I can't stop. And I think that's... I don't think that it's a, oh, I'm still trying to play you type of angle. I think that he just, you know, he hears it, and then that's how he ends up using it later. In a way where it's like, you know, if you ever got in a fight with, like, an ex, and then they use some shit against you just to hurt you, you know?
Yeah.
Like that type of thing. I think that's how he ends up using it. But one thing that I really like, where he's like, you know, I'm sorry about your brother, because she says he was killed by servants of Sauron, right? And then later, you know, he's like, I'm sorry about your... Well, because first he gets pissed off. He's like, oh, so if you just want vengeance, like, go and have your own vengeance. And she's like, well, you can't say thirst by drinking seawater. And then she does, you know, I can't stop.
Yeah.
You know? And it's very curious, like, how he says it. But you don't really... Because the scene's so intense... You don't really catch it, because he's just like, I'm sorry about your brother. Like, I'm sorry for your brother, you know, I'm sorry. For all of it. You know? And I do like the idea that he is at least even a little bit sorry, you know? Because you can do bad things that you wanted to do. That you wanted to do.
Yeah.
You can still feel remorseful for them.
Anakin wanted to kill those kids. They were annoying. They wouldn't shut up. They kept asking if he had games on his phone. He didn't.
He's been plotting to kill those younglings for a minute.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Mr. Skywalker, do you have games on your phone?
You know, to him, he's probably thinking, I gotta kill these kids so my kid can live.
Yeah, exactly.
You know?
Exactly.
That's how he's thinking, even though it's fucking twisted, you know?
Yeah.
So, in that way that you can do bad things that you were doing on purpose, you can still feel sorrowful for them. I do like that he he has that depth of him. He's like, I'm sorry. Like, I'm sorry about your brother. Like, I'm sorry I killed your brother. You don't know it? I killed your brother, and I'm sorry for it, you know?
Especially, I think part of that as well is he's being confronted with somebody that he seems to care for in some way.
Yeah.
And then seeing
when he probably sees a bit of himself in her, you know?
Yeah. And then seeing the pain that he's caused that person.
And even though he's definitely a wicked person, he probably sees a bit of himself in her, but in like a twisted way where like he thinks he wasn't that bad, right? Or that he was only a product of circumstance, or
yes, it's not my fault.
Right, that type of stuff. You know?
I didn't do it. It wasn't me. It was like and I think you see that as well in the ending when he's pleading to her and he's like yeah, I know I'm a fucked up person, but you can balance me or whatever. We'll be fine.
Yeah.
You
well,
know?
And then, you know, he's like, you said you didn't care. Like, I told you I did evil things, and you said I could be free of it. You didn't care.
Which is, like, the most fucking, like, it's like if I was like, Jason, I did do a crime before. And then later on, I was like, I murdered a child. You know?
A lot of them. Like, countless.
Yeah. And between then, you'd been like, Sean, I don't care that you're, like, a criminal. Like, it's all right. You know? And then later on, you find out how bad it is. You're like, hang on a second. You made it sound like it wasn't that bad.
I killed entire bloodlines.
Yeah, like, you didn't say that you were the servant of the Dark Lord.
Not only did I kill entire bloodlines, but I was doing, like, witchcraft to them.
Yeah.
And shit. And torturing them.
Like.
And feeding them to my werewolves. And...
But that is some shit that, like, somebody that isn't all there and is, like, they're sick. Would say.
Yeah,
you know,
exactly,
they'd be like, I told you that I did a bad thing, and you said you didn't care, because to them as well, they really can't differentiate scales of badness.
Right.
Well, like, they just lack empathy.
That's like some real life, like, Satanist shit, where, like, they believe in, like, karmic retribution, where it's like, if I told you I'm doing this bad thing, then I won't receive karma for it. Like, if you let me do this bad thing, then it's not my fault.
Yeah.
It's like, damn, bro.
Well, there's some really good writing with Sauron. Like, I love that we can have this conversation about Sauron.
When previously he was literally just like a guy who would just stay in his tower type shit.
Yeah.
You know?
He was kind of an incel before.
Well,
and he's still an incel a little bit. There's some incel vibes in the ending.
True. Even though he is a bad guy, he's not like, oh, girls only like the bad guys.
Yeah. Well, incels tend to be the bad guys too. They just don't think they are.
Right. Well, self-labeled, you know. Yeah.
That's that's what Sauron believes too. He's like, yeah, I could do better. You know, I could do better with all this power. Like, everything will be fine. I just got to kill a couple people first. You know?
Yeah.
Is kind of the what's the there's a line in let me see if I can find this. It's from Doctor Who. Here he says, so let me ask you a question about this brave new world of yours. When you've killed all the bad guys and it's all perfect and just and fair, when you finally got it exactly the way you want it, what are you going to do with the people like you, the troublemakers? How are you going to protect your glorious revolution from the next one?
Yeah.
Which is a great line, and that's like the Sauron thing too, where he's like, I just gotta get things in order, and then I'm set, and everything's gonna be great. The world is gonna be perfect. But what about the people that disagree with you and then try to fight back? Then you like,
they can't conceive that it's impossible.
Yeah, the Doctor says, like, maybe you will win, but nobody wins for long. Like, and I it's a great speech in Doctor Who, but I think it also it applies to any of these villains that you see that are like, no, I'm not evil. I just need the power to make everything better. You know, like once everything is
will stop. Like, you know, people will stop dying once I get what I want. You know.
Yeah. Once everything is perfect, then it's gonna be fine. But it's like nothing stays perfect for long. Like, there's always going to be somebody that disagrees with you. So then what do you do then? What happens then?
When Sauron would just say, I just exterminate them, you know?
Yeah. I'll kill them too. And then it's like, yeah, see, we can't, that's not gonna work. I'm glad that this stupid speech from Doctor Who turned out to be some sort of use that has been stuck in my head for 6 years. Jason, do you have anything else today to say about Sauron?
I'm just excited, man.
Me too.
I'm excited to see not only him just, taking over Mordor, like how does he get there? How does he do it? But I'm also excited to see him craft the other rings. Like how does he get Celebrimbor to do those other rings, right? Like how are they gonna portray it, right? Are they gonna portray it as, he's just in Celebrimbor's head and just like completely warping his brain, or is Celebrimbor in on it too? Like he just wants to do something of value or whatever, right? Like, and he's like, I'll sacrifice whatever in order to make great things so I can be on the same level as Feanor or something, right? Mm. And I swear to God, dude, if they say that, oh, the reason why Celebrimbor says, true creation requires sacrifice is that Feanor had to do some fuck shit to create the Silmarils, because that is not a thing.
Yeah.
Right? Like, he created the Silmarils, but it was more of like a fluke, like how he couldn't recreate the Silmarils if he wanted to, even if the trees were still alive, because the reason why the Silmarils end up being so needed and fought after and everything is that the Silmarils have the light of the trees, and then the trees get killed. So then now the Silmarils are the only thing that exists that is the same as the Silmarils, right? And they're like, yo, we need the Silmarils to repair the trees. And he's like, no, fuck y'all. These are mine, So, like, and he also thinks that they're going to, like, try and steal from him and kill him. And then literally as that happens, the Silmarils, as he's, like, talking to them and saying no, Morgoth steals them and kills his father. So it's like, exactly what he feared happens, right? But if they try to say that, like, oh, he killed his mother to make it so that he could make the Silmarils or something, like, I'll be so pissed off. And like, oh, this is a line that Feanor said to Celebrimbor, like, Celebrimbor witnessed it or something, or found out how he did it. And it's like, yeah, true creation requires sacrifice or something. Because he's definitely saying that again, Like, he said it. He said it multiple times. Like, I don't know. I'm just curious to see how much is Celebrimbor in on it, Like,
yeah.
And does Galadriel tell Elrond that, yo, this is Sauron? Who does she tell? What's she gonna do? Because obviously we haven't seen her husband, who's definitely still alive. What is there gonna be some reason? Like, what I'm guessing is, there's the whole, oh, all the elves are gonna die, and the reason that Galadriel ends up getting one of the rings is that she is taking one of the rings in order to go to Lothlorien, so that all of the Lothlorien elves don't fade away. Right? And then maybe while she's there, either her husband's gonna be there, right? Mm-hmm. Or whoever, well, it could be both as well. Like, her husband's there, and whoever's in charge there at the time gets killed by an orc or something, Like,
yeah.
Or whatever, like, so then that's how she becomes in charge or something. I don't know. We'll see.
I'm excited to find out in 2 years.
No, 1 year.
Yeah.
Later this year.
Oh, well,
even.
yeah.
Later this year, even.
I don't know about that.
Christmas time, bro. Just for me.
I think we'll see it probably end of next year. I think Christmas time 2024.
End of next year, please.
Will be
if it comes on 2025, bro. Come on, bro.
Well, then, hopefully, 2025, it'll be the double feature of Rings of Power and the Stormlight Archive Copium. For now, though, I think we're done. We'll be back in a couple months. I say a couple months. Probably closer to like summertime. I think is at some point we want to do some of the movies.
Yeah, talking about the movies.
I doubt we'll do all 6 at once, but maybe.
Oh, you're talking about the Hobbit movies too.
We got time, Jason.
That's true. That's true.
Well, yeah. Maybe maybe this summer we'll do the Hobbit, and we'll wait a little bit longer on the 3 trilogy or the trilogy.
The OG.
Yeah. I could read the Hobbit again before we do the movies. That's short enough.
Oh yeah, that's easy. That's like a couple hours. It's easy
mode. For now though, you guys can follow me on Twitter at Sean_AFK. I'm sometimes on Twitch. At the same handle, Sean_AFK.
Yeah, and you can find more of me at Super SpikeGhetti Bros on Twitch. You can also follow us on Twitter for whenever we drop other things, whether it's more news for this podcast, more news for maybe Squid Game podcast, maybe BoJack podcast, crossover episode.
What is this, a crossover episode? It will return for season 2 relatively soon-ish. Maybe in a month and a half. Mike and I are gonna bank some episodes first. But
but yeah, so yeah, follow us on Twitter at SpikeGhetti Bros, and come say hi on Twitch. That's probably the best place. Otherwise, you can join the Discord as well, and come say hi. Maybe say hi.
There's always a link in the episode description for the Discord.
Yep.
There's a bunch of links in the episode description. Just go look there. Also, follow Alex on Twitter because they made our juiced cover art at Alex_BeagBoy. Follow Shane Plunkin and Jesse Wright of Meadow Vista Media on Twitter at MVM_studio, or go to their website, MeadowVistaMedia.com. They did the juiced introduction.
Oh, yeah.
It's so good. You can also listen to them on this podcast. They did a special Music of the Rings of Power episode with us that you guys are sleeping on. I look at the views of the plays, and it ain't as high as the rest of the podcast. What are you guys doing? It's the best episode.
Go back.
The music is the best part of the show. Go listen to it.
Honestly. All right, y'all. I missed you. I missed this. I can't wait to do it again. But until then, enjoy your 11Cs, your luncheon, your afternoon tea, your dinner, your supper, all that. And catch us next time for Second Breakfast.